In this video, we're going to continue looking at our feature definitions under the linear category for curb and pavement or shoulder and sidewalk. For this example, we're going to take a look at our road curb back, and we're going to take a look at the linear feature symbology and see how that is set up for our curb. And we'll notice that they'll be set up similar for each linear feature definition that we have assigned for this example. Moving down to the feature symbologies, we have a linear category with subcategories of curb, pavement, shoulder, and sidewalk. So everything that we have drawn with our feature definition, we then have a feature symbology for it as well. If we select on the road curb back feature symbology, that will bring up the property for this feature symbology. We have a selection tab. That will be the parameter of name. That will be the name of the feature symbology that we have selected. We have a defaults tab with the parameter of default element template. In this case, it's linear curb, road, curb, and back, so that's pointing to the element template. It is always good practice to set the default element template and leave it set. We have a plan tab, and one note that anything under the default tab, like the plan tab, will override what is set in the default. So in our case, our plan tab has an element template set that would override the element template in the default, but we always want to set the default element template. Back to the plan tab, we have the different parameters. We have an annotation group, so if we wanted to assign an annotation group to display, we would assign that here. And annotation groups, or what goes into an annotation group, will be defined in another series of videos. We would define an element template to override our default, but for this example, our element template for plan matches, so it would still override, but it would still match. The arc element template would define how arc geometry is defined, likewise with the spiral element template. If we move on to our profile intersection tab, we have one parameter for an element template to define or set as there as well. In this case, it's modeling points and intersecting profile. What this will do will set an element template to be used when an intersecting point is of two crossing elements in a profile view. We have a 3D tab that has two parameters, one for annotation group and one for element template. So again, if we wanted to define an annotation group to annotate our elements in the 3D view, we would assign it here. And if we wanted our 3D view or elements to be displayed in the 3D view, we would assign an element template there as well. That will take us to our dynamic cross-section tab that has one parameter for a crossing point element template. And this will define an element template used to draw linear features onto a dynamic cross-section at a point of intersection. So we would make sure that all these are set, and then if we take a look at our element templates that we're looking at, so we'll know that we have our linear, we have the different categories, pavement, shoulder, or curb. So for this example, we're looking at the curb, and we have our element templates selected, road curb back, and as we know, our element template will set up our level and the attributes of color, line style, and weight or class. If I take a look at the modeling points intersecting profile, we'll know that that has a point setting for an active point, so that's what's going to distinguish that active point in the profile view of two crossing elements. That is the symbology for our linear feature definition, and all our other feature symbologies under linear will be set up the same way with the same parameters.